I've been working on these 5 paintings, and I thought that I would show you a part of the process that I do sort of in the middle of stages of the painting when I'm building layers and trying to find a direction. One of the things I focus on is alternating between thick and thin paint. So you can see here with this painting I have already put quite a lot of purple ink over the top of it and just sort of spread it around, and now I'm adding in thick paint. And this is a really lovely contrast between sort of a transparent layer and then a thick opaque bit of paint. So when I'm putting this paint on, I'm also alternating how I put the paint on. So in some parts it'll be thick, and in other parts I will make it thinner. And here with the colour shaper, I can spread it out and make it transparent like I have there, and in other places I can really pile it up and make it thicker. So here I'm just adding some lines, and I'll do a few patches of these just so that this gives me options. Some of them I'll cover up, others of them I'll leave more exposed. Now, having put that colour on, I like to just place it in a few different places as well, just to sort of unify the painting. Make sure that the colours that I'm using are used right throughout the painting, not just in some areas. So I'm thinking about contrasts all the time here: thick and thin paint, hard edges and soft edges, and really just always thinking what I've done before and then what I'll do next to contrast it. So if I've put thin paint on, the next thing I'll do is put thick paint, and just building up these layers. So those blocks of stripes are sort of being built up there, and just putting that yellow in as well, and just adjusting the way that that paint's put on with the colour shaper. Now what I'm doing with the colour shaper is I am building contrast into these blocks of stripes. So in some parts I'm leaving the paint nice and thick, and in other parts I'm spreading it out so that it becomes a thin layer as well, and that provides contrast. In these middle stages, I'm really sort of trying to find a direction. I'm trying to link the top of the painting to the bottom of the painting, and I'm trying to link the sides, the edges of the painting, so that it appears sort of unified and connected. And I'm looking at design, so I'm looking at shape, and I'm editing here, so I'm taking things away that I don't necessarily need. Here's a detail, and you can see the difference between thick and thin paint, collage, just in this small section there's a whole lot of contrasts. So I'm contrasting shape with line, thick lines and thin lines. And then I'm going to move on to the next one. So that painting isn't finished, but it's time to move on Here I'm coming in with some thin paint. just lightening up some areas. And then having put this bit of yellow up in that corner, I want to sort of distribute the yellow in other parts of the painting as well. So the good thing about this is that it's all just experimenting. It's just trying things out. If it doesn't look good, then it's shifting the paint, disrupting the surface, softening the edges so it's not quite so bold. I've got no idea as I'm working whether what I'm doing is going to work, or whether it's going to be successful, whether it's going to lead to the finished iteration of the painting. It's all just trial and error. Well, not so much error, trial. And here I'm trying to work out which way I'm going to attack this painting. So I rotate it lots of times, and that's the advantage of working in a square, is that it gives you lots of options. So I'm adding some sort of thicker paint over the top now and just sort of trying to create some difference in shapes here. So I still want to have the texture, so once I've put the paint on, I can disrupt it and move it about with that colour shaper. And here I'm just sort of glazing in little areas, just adding thin paint. Just to bring more of that sort of bluey purple through. So the surface becomes really rich between pools of thick paint and then transparent layers that you look through to that opaque thickness underneath. And where there are little crevices, the paint just sort of sinks into it and creates a lovely surface. And this is the fourth painting. And so this one I'm just, once again, just putting paint on, moving it about. That's a transparent layer. Now this is a thick layer. I'm distributing this colour around the composition. And with the colour shaper, you can dig into the paint and you can find the layers underneath, and that creates really beautiful effects as well. Now I'm adding some fine lines with a pencil. Thin paint going over. Bring some warmth into this painting, and some more lime. So this is the process as I'm sort of closing in on these paintings and finding the direction, is focusing on design, thinking about lights and darks, but also thinking about the surface, thinking about contrasts and thick and thin paint, shape and line, while building up a really gorgeous, lovely surface.